For decades, the United States Navy has been the undisputed apex predator of the deep. They held the throne through two distinct advantages: nuclear power, granting them infinite endurance and speed, and sheer volume. They simply had more attack submarines than anyone else. But if you look at the evidence today, that supremacy is bleeding out. The lead is slipping away, fast and quietly. We have to ask, why? How does the world's greatest naval power lose its edge? The answer lies in a combination of arithmetic and arrogance. Let's look at the numbers. They don't lie. In 2025, the US Navy operated 49 fast attack submarines split between the Pacific and the Atlantic. Across the ocean, China is operating an estimated 54 to 58 attack submarines in its immediate waters. The trend line is even more terrifying. By 2054, the US hopes to field 66 hulls. China, the Department of Defense expects them to hit 80 as early as 2035. I am specifically focusing on attack times submarines here, the fighter jets of the deep. I'm excluding ballistic missile submarines because their role is deterrence. They hide in the shadows waiting for a doomsday order. Attack subs are the hunters. They penetrate enemy territory and, if necessary, use Mark 48 torpedoes to break the backs of enemy vessels beneath the waves. In a conventional conflict over Taiwan or the South China Sea, the ballistic subs won't be the ones doing the fighting. It's the attack fleet that matters, and that is where America is losing the numbers game. The United States still holds the technological crown, primarily because its entire fleet is nuclear-powered. China's fleet is largely diesel-electric. Historically, this was the American ace in the hole. Old-school diesel subs were like ninjas with asthma. They could be quiet, but they had to surface every few days to run their noisy diesel generators and recharge their batteries. They were tethered to the surface, vulnerable and slow. But here is where the plot twists. The technology has evolved, and the disadvantage of diesel is becoming a lethal strength. Modern diesel-electric submarines utilize air-independent propulsion, AIP. This technology solves the endurance problem. Instead of surfacing, these boats use fuel cells that convert hydrogen and oxygen into electricity. Now, carrying hydrogen is tricky. It's light but takes up massive volume. To solve this, engineers use metal hydrides, essentially bonding hydrogen to metal to create a solid-state battery. It's incredibly heavy, but on a submarine, weight isn't the enemy, volume is. This innovation allows modern AIP submarines to stay submerged for up to 6 weeks. While they can't match the sustained high speeds of a nuclear reactor, they possess something deadlier: silence. Nuclear submarines must constantly run cooling pumps for their reactors, creating a faint but detectable hum. A diesel sub running on batteries, it creates virtually zero machinery noise. It is a black hole in the water. The lethal potential of this technology isn't theoretical. In 2005, the Swedish submarine Gotland, a cheap diesel-electric boat, penetrated the defenses of a U.S. carrier strike group during war games. It sank the USS Ronald Reagan repeatedly without ever being detected. It proved that in a game of ambush, the cheaper, quieter boat often wins. So, facing a numerically superior Chinese fleet, what is the U.S. Navy's move? Realistically, there are two options. One is to rely on large, unmanned undersea vehicles, drone subs like Boeing's Orca. It sounds futuristic, but the tech is immature. Underwater communication is difficult, and trusting an AI to fire torpedoes is a leap we aren't ready to take. The second, more logical solution is to build diesel-electric submarines. Think about the deductive reasoning here. Diesel subs are significantly cheaper. You can buy 4 of them for the price of a single nuclear Virginia-class boat. They have shorter construction timelines and wouldn't clog up the specialized nuclear shipyards that are already stretched to their breaking point. The Virginia-class is a powerhouse, yes, but it cannot be in 4 places at once. In naval warfare, quantity has a quality all its own. If the solution is so obvious, cheaper, quieter, faster to build, why is the US Navy so reluctant to adopt it? Why do they refuse to mix diesel boats into their all-nuclear fleet? I believe the motive isn't strategic, it's psychological. It's a hangover from the Cold War. To understand the resistance, we have to go back to the crime scene of 1955. The Soviet Union shocked the world by launching a ballistic missile from a submarine. Suddenly, the US wasn't safe. The Soviets could strike American soil from anywhere in the ocean. To counter this, American attack subs had to race across the Atlantic to hunt Soviet boomers in their patrol zones. This required speed and indefinite range capabilities only nuclear power could provide. Nuclear propulsion became more than just a technology, it became a religion. The US went all in. By the time the Soviet Union collapsed, the US Navy had purged every diesel boat from its ranks. The nuclear submarine force became an elite community, built on a foundation of 41 for freedom and decades of technical dominance. This history has created a cultural barrier that is almost impossible to breach. The U.S. Navy's submarine force views itself as the nuclear elite. Reintroducing diesel-electric boats feels like a regression, a step backward to inferior technology. It raises uncomfortable questions about hierarchy. Would a commander on a diesel boat get the same prestige? The same promotions? The identity of the American submariner is fused with the nuclear reactor. Even though the strategic landscape has shifted, even though we are now facing a defensive war in the Pacific where silent ambushes matter more than transoceanic speed, the institution refuses to pivot. The evidence suggests that while the technology for a balanced, lethal fleet exists, the politics do not. The U.S. Navy is trapped by its own tradition, holding onto a Cold War doctrine while a new, silent rival multiplies beneath the waves. In the end, the refusal to adapt might be the very thing that sinks them.